You think you know yourself. You think you know why you're ambitious, why you worry so much, why you constantly check your phone, why rejection hurts, why you keep planning for futures that may never happen. You probably think those things came from your childhood, your parents, your experiences, your successes, your failures, and you're not entirely wrong. But what if that's only the surface? What if beneath every thought you call you lies something much older, something that existed thousands of years before your name, before your country, before civilization, before history itself? What if your personality was never designed to make you happy? What if it was designed to keep you alive? Imagine waking up tomorrow with no supermarket, no refrigerator, no food delivery apps, no convenience stores, no guarantee that you'll eat today. For most of human history, that wasn't a nightmare scenario. It was normal life. Your ancestors lived in a world where starvation wasn't a possibility. It was a constant companion, a shadow that followed every decision, every journey, every winter, every failed hunt. And over thousands of generations, that pressure shaped something far more important than your body. It shaped your mind. The uncomfortable truth is that the human brain was not built for abundance. It was built for scarcity. And that changes almost everything about who you are. Think about ambition. Why do some people struggle to sit still? Why do they feel guilty when they rest? Why can they achieve one goal and immediately chase another? Modern culture often celebrates this behavior. We call it discipline, productivity, success. But from an evolutionary perspective, ambition may have started as something much simpler: hunger. In a world where resources were limited, the individuals who constantly searched for more had an advantage: more food, more shelter, more security, more chances to survive. The person who felt uncomfortable doing nothing was often the person who stayed alive. Thousands of years later, the environment has changed, but the software remains. Your ancestors spent all day searching for food. You spend all day searching for achievements. Different target, same operating system. And then there's anxiety, perhaps the most misunderstood feature of the human mind. Most people see anxiety as a flaw, an error, a malfunction, something that shouldn't exist. But imagine standing alone on an ancient grassland. No walls, no police, no hospitals, no emergency services. Just you and a world full of things that wanted to kill you. In that world, who survives? The person who constantly asks, what if something goes wrong? The person who notices unusual sounds. The person who pays attention to subtle changes. The person who prepares for the worst. The anxious brain wasn't broken, it was effective. The calm and carefree individual may have enjoyed life more. But the vigilant individual was more likely to live long enough to pass on their genes. And that's the strange part. The brain you're using right now is largely the same brain that evolved in that dangerous world. The predators changed. The code did not. Today, you're not worried about lions. You're worried about exams, deadlines, relationships, embarrassment, money. The objects of fear have evolved, but the mechanism remains untouched. Your brain still scans the horizon. It's just looking for different predators. And perhaps, nowhere is this more obvious than in our need for other people. Think about how painful rejection feels. A text message left unanswered, a friend growing distant, someone choosing another person over you. These moments shouldn't hurt as much as they do, and yet they do. sometimes with shocking intensity. Why? Because for your ancestors, belonging wasn't a luxury, it was survival. Being accepted by the tribe meant protection, if food, knowledge, cooperation, life itself. Being rejected often meant the opposite. The brain learned this lesson so deeply that it still treats social exclusion as a threat, not because you're weak, not because you're overly emotional, but because somewhere deep inside your nervous system, loneliness still feels dangerous. And maybe that's why approval matters so much, why criticism lingers, why embarrassment can replay in your head for years, why a single negative comment can outweigh 100 compliments. Your brain isn't trying to make you miserable. It's trying to keep you connected. Because for most of human history, connection was survival. But starvation didn't just shape our social behavior, it shaped our relationship with food itself. And this is where things become impossible to ignore. You know that feeling when you promise yourself you'll only eat a few chips, and then somehow the entire bag disappears? It feels like a lack of discipline, but your biology tells a different story. Your ancestors lived through cycles of feast and famine. When food was available, eating more was smart. The future was uncertain. The next meal wasn't guaranteed. The body adapted, the brain adapted, reward systems evolved to encourage consuming calorie-dense foods whenever possible. In the modern world, those same instincts collide with supermarkets packed with endless abundance. The result is predictable. A survival mechanism meets an environment it was never designed for, and suddenly, resisting temptation becomes one of the hardest psychological battles modern humans face. But here's the most important realization. If ambition came from hunger, if anxiety came from vigilance, if social sensitivity came from the need to belong, then maybe many of the traits you've spent your life fighting aren't signs of weakness at all. Maybe they're ancient survival tools, operating exactly as intended. The problem is not that the software is broken. The problem is that the environment changed faster than evolution could keep up. You are carrying a Stone Age brain into a digital age, a survival machine into a world of abundance, a mind designed to avoid starvation into a reality where scarcity often exists more in perception than in fact. And perhaps understanding that changes everything, not because it removes anxiety, not because it erases insecurity, not because it suddenly makes life easy, but because it changes the story. You stop seeing yourself as defective. You start seeing yourself as adapted, ancient, human. The goal was never to become fearless. The goal was never to eliminate every uncomfortable emotion. The goal is to understand where those emotions came from, to recognize the ancient software running beneath modern life, and then decide, consciously, what to do with it. Because your ancestors didn't give you a perfect brain, they gave you a brain that survived. And the fact that you're here, watching this video, is proof that it worked. The question is no longer whether you're carrying that ancient survival system. You are. The question is what kind of life you'll build once you finally understand it.